We want to welcome everybody to this week's episode of our training, the Entrepreneur Factory training. It's going to be Jim Carroll giving his presentation today, and it's the beginning of a series, it seems like, that we're going to be doing called How to Master Your SEO. And so now, just to give you a quick introduction, I mean, a lot of times people have seen this before, but, you know, Jim is a daredevil. Okay, he was a daredevil. He's not quite as big a daredevil as he used to be. He used to jump out of perfectly good airplanes. And one time he jumped out while on fire and while it was on fire. So he's had both experiences. He also has scuba dived with sharks. He's been to several countries and enjoyed the culture of those countries, and hiked through jungles to just see a Buddha type person sitting there, and he's going, okay. So he's been to several eclipses, and he has all kinds of other things to his name. I'm going to turn the time over to my good friend, Jim Carroll, who's going to teach you about mastering your SEO.
Thank you, Boyd. And I can certainly appreciate the introduction. But I just want to say that this is the Entrepreneur Factory weekly training, and Boyd is the co-host, Boyd Peterson from BP Media. So you forgot to introduce yourself, Boyd.
So call him Boyd Peterson. Okay.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start my my PowerPoint.
Okay.
Okay. Can you see that? Okay.
I can. And I was just going to mention, if anyone who's listening in, on the live one, if you have any questions, you can throw it into the chat or into the Q&A, and I'll be here watching and monitoring, and we'll get you taken care of. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
All right. So I'm Jim Carroll with E2 Total Solutions. We are a full service search engine optimization and internet marketing firm. So like Boyd mentioned, I've done a couple things in my life, and I don't want to belabor the point, but there's a couple of skydiving photos, a shark photo, some Buddhist stuff. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on in my life, and I think I'm starting to get crazy again. So I'm wanting to travel and get back out there. Today's presentation and training is going to be about doing it yourself kind of search engine optimization. It's entitled certainly Master Your SEO, and these were a couple of slides that I thought were relevant, and so I want you to come run with us. I want you to live, work, and create, and I want you to wake up, kick ass, and be kind. So those are a couple of things that I like to live by. So bear that in mind. This is a slide that it's one of the very, very few slides that are a repeat from some of my other presentations, but I can't not show it. When we're talking about search engine optimization, I actually had one of my designers a couple of years ago put this together, and it speaks perfectly to what optimization is. And we're going to foray a little bit away from some of the nuts and bolts I normally speak about. But it's important to keep in mind that there's three primary components. One of them is content, one of them is link building, and one of them is your social media, your reviews, and that sort of thing. But so keep that in mind as we talk about this other stuff. But as I said, we're going to wander off a little tiny bit and talk about some other things, some other topics today. I normally end my slide with a couple of quotations, or at least one quotation. Today, I want to begin the slide with a couple of quotations. Content marketing is a long-term strategy that seems to work for any business on any platform. That was stated by Neil Patel, who is one of the I don't want to call him a grandfather, he's a young guy, but one of the fathers or the respected people inside of the SEO community. My second quotation that I thought was really relevant today was quality content development and promotion combined. You are able to make great or get a great number of likes, mentions in a natural way. And that the natural way is the thing that's important to that quotation. And that's something that Google cannot complain about. So if you're satisfying Google, it's you're going to be very, very happy. So that was kind of two different things. Christy Hines is a well-known SEO person as well. She invented a couple of applications that SEO people use. You'll notice those two photos in the middle. And I frequently tell people in the beginning, it's very much a ballet. SEO is a ballet, and there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of different actors or dancers on the stage. And once they kind of get well versed and think they have a grasp on everything, then I tell them it's really a rodeo. And it is a rodeo. It's the wild, wild west. And every time you think that you have it down a little tiny bit, well, Google will change the rules. And I'm going to kind of make a statement that will clarify everything that goes on. And that is, Google will always do the right thing for the end user. So if you think about it, kind of over the long haul, how does that satisfy the user? We're going to talk about relationships and some other things here today, but at the end of the day, how does that really affect the end user? And that's how Google looks at everything. That's how Google sees everything. So if you're trying to be manipulative and do keyword stuffing or something goofy like that, Google's going to figure it out and find out your site and punish you accordingly. I've said this many times, but there's only reward and punishment in the Google world. So either you're being rewarded and moved up the pile as far as rankings go, or they're going to be punishing you. So bear that in mind. It's a rodeo or a ballet. There's reward and punishment. So think about that as you're starting to evolve with your SEO. I thought it was really important to mention right out the top, and I think this presentation only has about 30 slides, which was maybe even light for me sometimes to give an hour presentation. But I wanted you to think about the reports or tracking. And Google Analytics is by far the leader kind of in this arena. Everybody should have Google Analytics on their site. And I don't know, I'm just guessing, but maybe there's 1,000 reports you could pull out of Google Analytics. They see everything that happens to your site. They see everything, how many visitors you get, how often they come, how long they stay, how they navigate through the site, all kinds of things like that. And so Google Analytics is kind of the go-to tracking or reporting software. And I should mention right off the bat that that's free. That is free software. And I'll tell a real quick story. I used to use a product called Urchin. And Urchin was a company out of, I want to say Dallas, Texas. And when I owned my hosting company, we used Urchin, and it gave us a real advantage over all of my competition because we had this Urchin product. And I think I paid $1,000 or $1,200 a month for it. And one day they just, shut down the Urchin product, and I was completely pissed off. And the next week I found out that Urchin had been purchased by Google, and now they made it a new product called Google Analytics, and it was free. And it totally made me mad because I'd been paying for years, $1,200 a month, and now Google had bought it and they were just making it free. Google has a history of doing that with some of their products or some of their services. But moving on real quick, there's some other software, ranking softwares and tracking softwares. Rank Tracker's a good one. A lot of people use that. Arif is another one that they use. Moz is another one they use. SemiRush is another one they use. Crazy Egg is an interesting one. That tracks how people's eyes move around and their cursor movements and stuff. So if you want to see how somebody's crawling your site or looking at your site, that's a good one to kind of get involved with. The last one is kind of a competitor to Yoast, and it's something called Rank Math. I'm experimenting with that on a couple of new sites, and there's some really strengths and some weaknesses as well. But I think they're going to kind of step up and compete with somebody like Yoast. But overall, when you're thinking about SEO, you have to ask yourself, how are you going to measure your accomplishments or your improvements? And so a combination of rank tracking, a combination of something like Yoast, which helps you improve the SEO on the site, and then measure it with Google Analytics. I recently signed a contract with a client, and the only measurement that we put in that contract was improved visitors based on Google Analytics. So, if I felt confident enough and the client felt confident enough, that's a good measuring stick. That's a good measuring tool. So consider, that when you're building your websites or optimizing your websites. So the next thing that I wanted to mention is that you should have quality by design. And when I say design, I want you to make a plan, have a plan, know where you're headed with your content. Do your research. You shouldn't have any, spelling mistakes. Boyd just caught one that I did it this morning. But make sure that the grammar and the spelling is correct. You have to follow the data wherever the data leads you. You need to follow that, and the data doesn't lie. So if you have clients bouncing off your site or bouncing off an in particular page, there's a reason why that is. So follow that data, trust that data, and then pay attention to that. You need to stay focused, and your content needs to be topic centric. There's a slide that I'll show you a little bit later on that says stay focused. But as you're creating content, and it doesn't matter if you do it in your bedroom at night, sitting on your bed like she is in the photo, or you're sitting at your desk, make it quality content. The best description that I can give you is that this is the first place that Google starts to understand what your website is about. And the reason for that is because Google is kind of the impression that every website needs a reason. Is it a brochure type of site? Is it an e-commerce type of site? What is the purpose of that site? According to them, every site has a purpose, and you can decide what it is. Maybe it's just some family photos of the family reunion, and that has a relevant place in the world. It's probably not going to rank #1, but you can drive all your relatives and everything to it. It's kind of cool. So just bear that in mind, that the content has to have a reason or a solution. Not a solution, but maybe solve a problem is a better description. So here's where I start to run amok a little tiny bit. Boyd has certainly seen a lot of my presentations over the years, and I drive home, the core Web Vitals update and link building and some of those things. And I don't think I've ever had a slide before that says be helpful. And as I've said in the beginning, I was going to kind of run off topic a little tiny bit. This isn't as much off topic as it is how Google sees the world. And so if you have a website or you have content on the web and it's not helpful, they're not going to rank you very high. If it is helpful, then they're going to start to rank you higher. So you need helpful content. You need to solve solutions for other, and then your content will make you grow organically in a massive way. So basically, pay attention to your content, as mentioned in the previous slide. Have a plan. What is the plan for that content? Is it quality, meaning that it doesn't have any grammar problems? Does it solve somebody's problem? What is the purpose of that content? If you keep that in mind in the beginning, you're going to go a lot farther with Google or any of the search engines, to be quite honest with you, as you progress. So bear that in mind, that it's good to be helpful, which is kind of an interesting way to look at things. So here's a great picture that I found when I was putting this together, and it's called Go Big or Go Home. And clearly that breaking news truck was trying to go big in a great way. But I want you to be careful. Do not over optimize your site. And that sounds interesting coming from me that cares so much about optimization. But you can do too many things. You can have too many keywords, which is a killer. If you do keyword stuffing, then you're going to be punished accordingly. As I said, reward or punishment. And if you have too many keywords, Google considers that stuffing. And so then they'll punish you accordingly. You can, go big or go home using or creating, I should say, amazing videos. You can, and Boyd, I'm sure I'll talk to this. He's got a special presentation coming up after this, but use surveys, use blog, use press releases. There's a whole gamut of things that you can use. And it's not, as I point out frequently, it's not any one of those things that make you successful. Imagine having a YouTube video and YouTube, of course, is owned by Google. So that's going to tell Google that you're willing to play ball with them. Having an active Google My Business page, where you post to on a regular basis, that's good. Imagine getting reviews from Facebook, which is a platform that Google tracks. So you've got this kind of circle of things that are going on from your website to your Google My Business page to social media, Facebook, and then a YouTube channel where you're actively posting stuff. It's those types of situations that Google's going to see. They're going to see all of those things and then start to reward you accordingly. So I put in here that you should use plugins. And I'm going to tell you about a situation that happened to me within the last week. And there was a website that I'm familiar with. We haven't really monkeyed with it or touched it from an SEO perspective. The client shared it with me, and we wanted to do some work. I mean, we're talking about doing work in the future. And what happened was he needed a little tiny change done to this website. Basically, just added a little symbol down in the corner saying that he was certified in whatever he was certified in. And we went into the website. Actually, one of my programmers went into the website, and he started to install this little indicia that we had wanted to put in there. And the platform itself, the WordPress platform, seemed to function correctly, but the theme did not function. And then when he thought, well, that's really, really odd, I've never seen this very common theme not function, he went to the plugin level. And the plugin level, they had 30 some odd plugins there, and half of them were maybe turned off, which is a classic sign that somebody had been in there trying to fix the site beforehand. And what that means is that somebody had installed all these plugins, and then the site didn't function properly. So in an attempt to figure out what was not making it work or not allowing it to work, they had actually gone in and started to shut off plugins. And if I recall correctly, 10 out of 30 plugins were deactivated. So we immediately knew that there was a problem. Every one of the plugins that they had were out of date. So the 20 plugins that were functioning did not work, or it's not that they didn't work, it's that they were outdated. So there was an update for every single one of them. So the theme was outdated. 20 out of 30 plugins were outdated. And basically I had to call the client and say, look, this is scary. We don't want to touch this. There's a real risk of things breaking if we start just updating plugins and seeing what's going on with that. So we're still talking to that client, but trying to figure out what's happened and when it kind of all went awry. But I'm going to tell you that the structure I just explained to you, a WordPress thing or a WordPress application with a theme sitting on it. And it doesn't matter what it is, elegant theme, some elegant theme, Divi, Elementor, whatever you use or want to use. There's a different reason for, a different theme, but then pile on top of that plugins. What I'm going to tell you is only put in plugins that you need. I'm just going to tell you, put in a security plugin. I use Security. Put in a backup plugin, which is Updraft. And then there's, this is a list of like the 7 or 8 most popular plugins. WP Forms is great. Monster Insights is good. You primarily will run Monster Insights parallel with Google Analytics. There's something called All-in-One SEO, which is a competitor to Yoast, OptiMonster, SeedPod. All of those are great plugins to use. I use also a plugin. I have a standard set of plugins that I put in on almost every site. I use image compression and video compression. Security is the security platform I like. I like to add something called a classic editor, because I like the classic editor or look and feel from the admin side. So do use the plugins, but don't overdo it. That site that had 30 plugins is probably too much. Just get the plugins that you need. That graphic, by the way, is a great series of little plugins. That's a European electrical supply, but I thought it was a great little graphic. So do use plugins, but use them appropriately. Don't put frivolous plugins in there, and then always keep them up to date. Both your theme and your plugins should stay up to date. I like to kind of do it manually, but then you have to check into every site with some frequency. If you do put the auto plug or the auto update in, sometimes that just makes the site go bonkers, and then you have to come back and figure out which one just updated and why it made it go bonkers. So you can manage it either way, but think about that. How often you're going to have them updated, when you're going to get them updated, and keep them current. The security issue with plugins is that an outdated one will allow a security breach. So keep them all current. That's why we update them. That's both the theme level and the plugin level. Keep them as current as as recent as you possibly can. Building links is something that I don't really want to harp on too long. You guys have all know that Google loves links, and Google was founded on a link building platform profile. I'll give you the brief history, but Google, at the time they were founded, the other competitors, MSN or the other search engines primarily were using popularity as their algorithm. And so when Larry and Sergey founded Google, they decided that link building, or somebody driving a link from their website to your website, was a better idea. Obviously look how it turned out. They control about 92% of all the searches in the world. So I think that they were onto something. But Google loves links. The other thing that, if you can watch my cursor for a second, is you can see how links kind of foray out, and somebody from a web page is linking to you. Somebody that's an outer tier or a link to them sometimes link to you. Somebody that links to them, and then somebody that links to them. So it's arguable that Google looks 3 to 4 pages deep to see what your links, how relevant your links are. So if you are a law firm and you get a link from one of the law reviews, or one of the colleges, and have an edu link, all of those have a different value. So a .org or a .edu or a .net all have a given value if they're linking to you. Somebody that's a .ru or a European site, they start to question that. They even throttle traffic really that is coming from offshore, let's say. So recognize that Google links. Google loves links. You need to link appropriately. Do your research on the companies that you're asking for a link. I do have a friend, and his whole strategy is based around link building. He generates very little content. He's got an e-commerce site, but what he does is he gives sample products to foundations, and those foundations are in some cases charitable things or fairs, like a county fair or a state fair. He'll donate food to those fairs, and then actually in return they'll give him a link. So he's got quite a gamut of links, but they're all basically free links, with the exception of the fact that he donated food. He has links from all over the country. He has links from food pantries and links from nonprofit organizations and all kinds of diversity as far as his linking. But Google really likes it. He's ranking quite well and making progress, as he moves up the food chain there. So I'm going to tell you, Boyd, I know likes this, is that you need to follow your competitors. I think later on I actually refer to it as spying on your competitors. So that's a good strategy to see where your competitor, somebody that's outranking you, where are they getting their links, and what kind of linking strategy do they have. Here's one that most people don't think about, but it's proving to be effective, and that is buying expired domains. And again, I don't want to belabor the point, but if somebody's domain expires, or they quit doing business, or they go out of business, there's a certain number of links that are driven into that site. And so if you think about this, they can't contact all the people that are linking to them and say, oh, I'm not in business anymore, shut that link down. Or, I'm retiring, shut that link down. They just shut down the website. So if you can buy the domain name that still has links being driven to it, and there's a couple of tools that you can actually use to find out how many links they are and what kind of value they have. So find out what those links are, and then buy that domain, and then redirect that domain directly into your website. You're going to get a pile of conceivably quality links with very little effort, because all you did was buy a domain name and redirect it. So there's also value in building organically, and that's kind of what we've been talking about. There's different ways to link appropriately, but by all means build links and have them on your site. Oh, so here's the very next one, and that is spy on your competition. And if your competition is winning the SEO game, ask yourself why, look at what they're doing, and then do it better. So basically, that's a really straightforward statement. Spy on your competition. There's, it's not nefarious, it's not illegal, there's nothing wrong with it. If you have a competitor and they're outperforming you or winning at the SEO game, take a look at their site and figure out what they're doing. That's not bad, there's nothing wrong with it. And you may have a site that has no links, and maybe they've got 100 links, and so you just figure that out, and then put in 150 links, or get 150 links. It's that and the quality content, so that Google understands what the site is about, or what the point of the site is, that's going to win the day. So don't be shy about spying on your competition. So relationships, this is kind of a weird thing to talk about, maybe in your or in this presentation where it's about SEO, but I want you to think on a little bit bigger scale, and that is that we all do business with people we know, like, and trust, and so you have to build that relationship. And how do you build a relationship if you're kind of this cold, almost isolated website? How do you build that relationship with those clients? Well, it's really quite simple. And social media is called social media for a reason. So you should be active on your social media page. I'm sure Boyd's going to talk about that later. But what you're really doing is building a bond with those clients, or building a relationship with that buyer. They're not going to show up on your page, and almost never do they just buy the first time they hit your page. What they do is they'll come back to your page and make sure it's stable and that it's responsive. They'll check it maybe on social or a cell phone as well as their desktop. You want those relationships to grow. I argue with Boyd, and I actually heard one of my clients argue with Boyd not too long ago about, I don't like to share my personal information. And any of you that have known me for a long time know there's almost no personal information out there about me. And I've really been not really receptive to sharing private things about my life. I early on in my career, because I owned a hosting company, I would defend my hosting company, and it wasn't a big company, but I would defend 10,000 attacks a day, and we use software, of course, to protect us and defend that. But it gave me this perception that the internet is a dangerous place, and so from a real early perspective, or by design, I didn't put private information. I didn't put my location. I didn't put where I lived. I didn't put anything out there. And probably in the end, that was somewhat detrimental to my business. People want to go to your Facebook page and see where you live and that you're a real person. You have some private photos. Nowadays, certainly, they go to your LinkedIn page and they go to your Twitter page, and it's almost frightening to some degree now that some of the information that people are putting out there, or their opinions that they're putting out there, they're going to try and get a job in 10 years or 20 years, and that could still come back and bite them if you say things inappropriately. But if you do share honestly and openly and let people know that you're a real person, that's going to work to your benefit. So I know I don't like to share personal things, and that's the hardest thing, but Boyd talked one of my clients into, tell them about yourself, tell them, create a survey about what you like about chocolate or whatever it is. But you do need that personal touch. You do need to build that relationship with those clients. The other thing I put on this slide is that you should deploy some sort of A/B testing strategy. And this is referring specifically to social media. You can run an ad, and you can see that they had 201 opens. And the ad basically promoting the same thing, but in a different color scheme or a different photograph or any of a variety of things. This is the B email, and it clearly had 320 opens and 112 clicks compared to 68 clicks. So even though they had roughly the same number of delivered emails, you can see that the response rate was much, much higher. So think that in mind. Do some A/B testing. It doesn't take but a few dollars, and Boyd can talk more about this, but maybe $10 or $20 for an A campaign versus a B campaign. Test the demographic that you're hitting, test the time of day that you're letting the ads appear, test all that stuff. Do some serious A/B testing and make sure that you're getting the biggest bang for your buck on social media and an email campaign. Any of those things, you want to build that relationship with those customers, and that will create loyal and followers that you want to see grow with your business. So build those relationships. And I want to point out too that this is not really in my slide, but it's far cheaper to maintain a relationship than it is to always be acquiring new relationships. So make sure that you're maintaining those relationships as you go, and not offending or ignoring those people. So moving on, this is kind of an interesting one, and I'm completely out of my realm when I say this, but you want to tag influencers, and that's kind of interesting. I'm going to tell you that social media has become important to SEO today, and velocity is also important. So if you tag somebody like Boyd, who has a lot of followers, he will see the post, and a percentage of his followers see the post. And if you say something compelling, then they'll start to follow you too. So we also have recently sparred a little tiny bit about how compelling you need to be. I tend to be kind of edgy and ask hard questions, and some people don't like that. I mean, I'm going to tell you, I don't mind getting to the edge of offensive with some of the stuff, but I think that's compelling. That fits my personality. It suits my personality. But if you want to tag influencers, they'll see it, and if they have the same thought process or fall in the same camp as you, they'll follow you. Their followers, they have to be cut from the same kind of cloth. to have be a group of followers. So they'll probably start following you as well. So, increase your social media by tagging influencers. Everybody that's on the presentation today should tag Boyd, and he can start seeing what's going on with you. Social media and email kind of goes without beating it into you guys too much, but you can see how big Facebook is compared to YouTube and WhatsApp and Messenger. Those are all social media platforms that you need to pay attention to. The reason I've got that Google email there is that I wanted to tell you, please focus on the mobile phone first. And Google, without a doubt, has started to use what's called mobile indexing. And so where they used to have the Google index and then the mobile index, they would always go search their own index, the Google index first, and then go to the other indexes, including mobile, to find an appropriate or something appropriate for your search. Today, that has flipped 100% to where they go to the mobile index first. And if they don't find anything appropriate for your search, then they flip back to the Google index, because there's almost guaranteed to be something in the Google index that will match your search criteria. But they're searching for mobile first. And that's because all of us use our cell phones for everything. We're out shopping and we search, where the closest, pair of Levi's is. We're out, and this, I've seen this happen. I was in a Cabela's gun counter, and a guy came in and said, I want a left-handed Browning Satori shotgun, blah, 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 blah. And before the counter help could actually find that in their system, all the Cabela's system, because they didn't have one in the store, but they were looking in the system. The guy looked online, found it, and bought it, and said, I'm sorry, I'm going to go. I found one at this other store. And he did it all from his phone. So he not only found it faster, and bought it online, and then of course had to go, do all the background stuff. But at that point in time, and that was a year or longer ago, but that's how much the cell phone usage has increased. The cell phone search has increased. So everybody's using their phone. I actually know some people that really don't even use their desktop anymore. They just do everything on their phone. And so pay attention to that. Pay attention to the social media. Your emails come into your phone. Everything comes into your phone. So do, again, your A/B testing, both on social media and your emails. And you're going to be much further ahead if you can manage both of those appropriately. Here's a slide that I had a little bit of fun putting together. I want you to diversify and specialize basically at the same time. So that's a little bit of different. I did break my rule, and Boyd will chastise me later, but I did mention the core vitals in this particular slide. And those core vitals are again from Google, designed specifically to increase the user experience. So if you have a faster loading time, if your website's interactive, and you do become visually stable on a variety of different devices. Someone has an iPhone, I like Galaxy, someone else, has a different interface, different phone system. It has to become stable on all of those things, as well as a desktop. So if you look at some of those things that are core vitals, those are important. You'll certainly be in mobile friendly and safe, and HTTPS is all been beat into the ground. But look at the difference in how something responds if you're using a mobile device versus a desktop. And so you can see that clearly these URLs need improvement, where these URLs are performing quite well. That's on a desktop with desktop speed. So speed becomes something that we talk about a great deal in optimization. And it has to be fast, specifically for the mobile. The average mobile, not the average, but I should say the average on the first page, the first 10 searches on a mobile device, they all load in under a second. And sometimes it's 0.7 of a second or 0.9 seconds. but they load super fast on mobile devices. So make sure you're mobile friendly, make sure you're interactive as far as the cell phone or the mobile device goes. So you can see there that you know, you need to be localized for your user experience, your local SEO, responsive design, all of those types of things, but make sure that it works on your mobile device. Become an authority. And you can see there that I've got this really badass guy, and he's clearly an authority on something. But basically what I'm going to tell you is we're kind of wrapping up here. I think we're getting a little bit long on time. But you need to have trusted content. You need trusted links. You need trusted social media, and you need to have a trusted design. All of those things roll back into that relationship that we were talking about. Basically, you're building a relationship. You know, all of us go to networking meetings. All of us have networking groups that are our favorites. And if you think back, why is that networking group your favorite? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, it's probably because they're more responsive to you. They all trust you. And when you go to a new group, sometimes it's sketchy and you don't like the people, or you don't get to know the people as well before you dump that and go someplace else. I've got networking groups that I've gone to for years and years, and I still reach out to new groups, but you know, I don't go there with the expectation that I'm going to show up and then, you know, a bunch of people are going to buy stuff from me. You need to build that relationship. And again, you do that through content, social media, having a you know, classy design, and then driving links. Some of those things the user will actually see, the content and maybe the social media, certainly the design, but you know, inbound links to you, they don't always see those, or they rarely see those. Sometimes you have to you know, start to think about your velocity. And this is something that I've taught for years, and it's the velocity of a variety of things. Think about the velocity of links. So if you go from 1 to 100 links, and Google looks at that and says, hey, this guy must be important, he's got 100 links. Well, if those links start to evaporate or go away, or those businesses shut them off, and you go from 0 to 100, and then all of a sudden you're back down at 50, Google's going to think to themselves, hey, there's nothing that's compelling, or nothing about this guy that allows him to continue to grow links or have a linking velocity. So you need to always be out hunting for those the next link, and then the next you know, quality link, I should say. We haven't really mentioned domain authority, but domain authority is something important. Where do you get those links with a certain domain authority? And you know, do they maintain them? And .edu is the most important or most valuable link that you can have. And so having a positive velocity, growing slow but steady, is a much better scenario than just, you know, piling a bunch of links on it that evaporate. Having quality content again, and social media. You can measure your social media followers, and that's, Google looks at that as velocity. So if you go from 0 to 1,000 followers, and then all of a sudden you're back down to 500, Google's going to question and say, well, why, you know, why is this guy back down to half of what he had a month, or, you know, even 6 months ago? They're looking at an overall velocity. So, you know, focus on that with both linking and link building and social media. We want to see that positive velocity. And so, you know, your content and design are all built into that, but become an authority. I'm going to mention this really quick. There's something that you can do that creates authority. And if you wrote an article that was 20,000 words long, by nature, you start to become an authority. And let's just say it's on whatever it is, you know, ammunition, for example. You know, you're going to have to compete with big people like Remington, or somebody that manufactures ammunition. But if you write a 20-page or 20,000 word article, and everything that you say is appropriate and everything that you say is true, that's going to bump you up on that pile, because you're now an authority. You've had so much to say, and you've said it correctly, and you've said it right. So you can become an authority quite quickly by saying the appropriate thing about ammunition or guns, or goggles, for goodness sake. But make sure that you work on becoming an authority, and you do that primarily through content. So today, as we're wrapping up, we've been talking about search engine optimization, and we have a website that's called SEO in 360. And SEO in 360 has a little over 100 products on it. There's a variety of ebooks. There's a variety of applications that you can download, and it does everything from tracking your links to helping you find links to looking at your content, making sure that your content's not plagiarized, or you're not plagiarizing somebody else. There's a variety of different SEO things that you can find on SEO in 360, including some services. Boyd's on there as a service. I'm on there as a service. So if you need services, you can go there and find it as well. But what I'm offering today is a $597 lifetime membership is the face price. And I'm offering it to you guys for $297 for a lifetime membership. And that includes 24-hour access, 24/7 support. There's ebooks and all kinds of extra apps that you can do. If you will go to https://bpmedia.com/SEO disc, DISC, excuse me. Then that is where you can buy this lifetime membership. I rarely put this out there in the general public. It's not something that I'm fond of is giving huge discounts, but you can see that this is nearly half the price. So please go ahead and look at SEO in 360, and I'm sure that you'll find some value there, and then you can follow that URL and actually purchase the product. This is the second slide that I'm famous for. The first one was my awesome SEO, and this one is that it's always circles within circles. I can't point you to, just say create great content and the world will be rosy. That's not true. It's a combination of link building, great content, good design, social media. It's all of those things working together. And usually I'm pretty hardcore and straightforward about, you have to build links, you have to, adhere to the core vitals, you have to do this with your design. And I'm pretty famous for being hardcore about some of those things. And so today we talked about a lot of different things, and we talked about relationship building and building a relationship with the end user or your customers. So it was a little bit of an interesting presentation for me. I love putting these together every other week or so. And this one was an interesting journey because I tried to, wander off from that hardcore hit, pounding of this is what you do for us. This is, SEO. And we covered topics that were not mechanics today. Relationship building is not mechanical in any way. So that's my show for today. And clearly Boyd has something that he wants to jump in and say.
I was just going to say, this has been great.
So,
it is different than what you've done in the past, and you did mention core. No, but I won't go there because it was legitimate that you did.
Okay. Well, right. It was great fun putting this one together, and I generally love putting all the presentations together and alternating with you every other week. And today it just wandered off into some unknown places, and they're not foreign, but
no,
I'm a big believer in building a relationship with clients and stuff. But when you don't generally think about that's the whole point of social media, and that's what you do the best, Boyd.
Well, and we're going to talk about social media in the next class, but it's not on this same channel. But this has been a good class. I got things out of it too. And so it's been fun to listen. So we do have what one of the things for people to know is, like my Master Your Social Media, I did 3 weeks ago, I did kind of an overview type thing, and kind of like what Jim just did. Now we're going to be doing probably in a few weeks a much more in-depth search of this, the mastering your SEO. And then he's going to probably have a master class that you can go to, that is a workshop about how to master your SEO. And we'll let you know about that as it comes up. So anyway, thank you very much for attending today, and we will look forward to having you next week on our show, coming to visit. We're going to be talking about social media, and we're going to be talking specifically about some of the new things that are coming out for social media. Like I just found out a couple of new things that Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn are going to be doing. And then we're going to also talk a little bit about TikTok, which I've been asked several times about. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And so that'll be next week. Thank you very much.
That'll be exciting to hear about TikTok, because I don't get it. But
Well, it's still an up and coming program, but it's got lots of viewers, and there's some things that you can use. There's things that, for some businesses, it can be really good. For some businesses, it's not. But we're going to talk about that next week. So be sure to tune in then. Thank
okay,
you.
have a great week, everyone.